Hey everyone, Kevin here. I've been trying to figure out why it is that Mr. Money Printer, the dude who has the most powerful weapon in the world right now, is freaking out as much as he is, and why is he always up there on his podium going basically, yo Congress, get off your butt and give us some fiscal stimulus. We can lend, but we can't spend. You can spend, and you should spend. You should give the people what they need. Stimulus to prevent permanent scars. Well, today, over the last 3 hours, what did I do? Well, of course, I drank coffee like I usually do, and I went through this report, actually 3 Fed reports, and I'm gonna share them with you. I'm gonna give you the bottom lines on these because this is why the Fed is freaking out. And I'll tell you, each of these reports is like 50 to 80 pages long. I'm just gonna give you some quick bottom lines here. That's just 3 reports that the Fed is using to look at their data, and these are scary. Imagine all the other stuff Mr. Money Printer has on his desk. Well, probably a lot of money, but he probably underneath all that money also has a lot of ugly reports. And so here we go. Let's just start and show you some of these reports because they're scary. And this is exactly why we need more stimulus. First, we already know that unemployment is expected to be as high as 25%. That means 1 out of 4 people are out of work. Well, we also know, because the Fed told us yesterday, that 40% of people making less than $40,000 are unemployed. So people making less money are more likely to be unemployed. Well, this report was released today. And on page 4 of the report, we have something very interesting, that according to their survey, 91% of the people who lost a job in March of 2020 anticipated that they would return to work for the same employer or indicated that they had already returned to work. Well, the big thing here is aligning this with reality. First of all, reality is we know that most people haven't returned to work. That is the small percentage. So the vast majority of the people who are still unemployed actually think that they are going to go back to their job. This report right here is a survey of people. So this is what people think. Well, unfortunately, the National Bureau of Economic Research just released this paper that's called a relocation shock, or a paper on relocation shocks, and it has to do with people's employment. And probably the biggest takeaway out of this 41-page document is under the abstract here, which says that we find this: 42% of recent layoffs will result in permanent job loss. That means that 9 out of 10 people think they're going to go back to work, but only 6 out of 10 people are actually going to go back to work. This is really big because most people have the expectation that they're going to go back to work. But the National Bureau of Economic Research, which supplies information to the Fed as well, says that even though most people who are temporarily laid off think they're going to go back to work, 42% of those layoffs will become permanent. Not only that, but the Bureau of Economic Research suggests that only 3 people will be rehired for every 10 people who were laid off. And maybe this is because businesses are going to hire people back in waves. Maybe businesses think, hey, you know what? We're gonna have less demand, let's hire less people. Hey, you know what? Maybe now's the time to have more automation or try to make the existing employees we have work a little harder and maybe distribute all the tasks that we had many people for into a pool of, well, less people now and try to build slowly again. This is bad because it shows the Fed that people think they're going to get their jobs back when research and data is suggesting you're probably not going to get your job back. At least 42% of people who are laid off won't get their jobs back. That's really bad. But it's not only that, because here's another paper that the Fed released. During Jerome Powell's speech, when he suggested that this pandemic could essentially destroy people's livelihoods and the businesses that they built, he put a little report in the citation way at the bottom that nobody's referenced, and take a look at what that report says. It's kinda not so good. This report, titled Recessions and the Cost of Job Loss, suggests that men lose an average of 1.4 years of earnings if they were laid off during a mass layoff event like what we're experiencing now. But that's if the unemployment rate is below 6%. If the unemployment rate exceeds 8%, which it currently does, then people lose about 2.8 years of earnings over the next 20 years. They also go on to suggest that people who get laid off during these sort of mass layoff times tend to, in the future, have less stability in earnings and employment, worse health outcomes, higher mortality, lower educational achievement by children of displaced workers, and other unwelcomed consequences. They also said that your expected earnings might go down between 12 to, in other parts of this report, as high as 20%. They suggested that younger men tend to be more exposed to these kind of shocks to the job market, and here is that long-term effect of job displacement. Despite some recovery over time, even after 20 years, the earnings of displaced workers, people who've lost their jobs during these mass layoff times, remain 15 to 20% lower than the level implied by control group earnings. In fact, the report right here says that women who had been on the job for 3 or more years who lost their jobs during a recession when unemployment was higher than 8%, which it is, ended up with 20.6% lower earnings. Men between 21 and 50 years old who had been working at the same job for 6 or more years lost 20% of their revenue, and if you only worked at an existing job for 3 or more years, your future earnings could go down by as much as 22%. This is horrible. Like, now this makes sense to me. I mean, think about this. You get laid off, and right now we have this rosy expectation that as soon as everything goes back to normal, we'll be right back to work. And 91% of us are like, yup, we'll be right back at work. We'll just collect unemployment in the meantime. And you know what? $600 a week. All right, maybe we'll get another stimulus check. Yeah, this sucks, but we'll take some more mortgage forbearance. You know what? Maybe cancel rent on Twitter, and we'll go back to work. Yet the reality is, based on the actual data that these economists are looking at, we get screwed when we get laid off. Like, a $1,200 stimulus check is a drop in the bucket to the damage it causes to a massive amount of people's earnings. I mean, just think about this for a moment. I slapped together a quick little spreadsheet. We have 157 million workers in America with an average income of $48,500 each. If all of these people, that is 25% of these people, are laid off, and when they finally end up back at work, they make 20% less money. So basically, I took all the people and said, from all these people, those people who are unemployed go back to work and end up making 20% less money. That means every single year, our country loses $380.7 billion of incomes for people. That's $380 billion of less money that can circulate around the economy solely because people got laid off and then ended up going back to work and made 20% less money. Over 20 years, that's $7.6 trillion just in the amount of money that people are making less. And remember, every single time somebody spends $1, it spreads through the economy 5.5 times. Well, there are now $7.6 trillion less dollars over the next 20 years thanks to layoffs and when people go back to work, the 20% reduction in earnings that they can actually expect to make. So it finally makes sense to me. Why is Fed Chairman Jerome Powell with the money printer going, dude, I'm printing money really fast here, but oh crap. This sucks. Like, people getting laid off, this isn't good. Like, it's one thing if we all go home and just, Zoom call each other for 30 days. It's quite another if we stay laid off and companies are like, you know what? We'll just rehire 3 out of 10 people now. This is not good. And this is exactly why, or at least one of the reasons why, I'm sure there are plenty of others, why the Fed is freaking out and why the Fed is demanding Congress issue more stimulus. Hope you appreciate this insight. If you like this kind of insight into money and the psychology of money and you want to learn and you want to do something, well, first of all, get yourself a license. Like, become a licensed lender, become a licensed real estate agent, become a CPA. Do something because your job might not be around anymore. And if you don't like the income you have now, get a license so that you can increase your income. At the same time, if you want to learn how to make money, the psychology of money, how to invest in real estate, check out the programs linked below. Would love to see you there. And get 2 free stocks with Webull. Guess why? Because they I totally saw this coming, right? I'm pretty sure I called this like 4 videos ago. I'm like, they say the promotion's expiring, but I don't think it's actually expiring. Yeah, they brought the 2 free stocks back. So get your 2 free stocks with Webull when you deposit $100, and of course, sign up for life insurance with the link below. Thanks for watching, folks. We'll see you next time.